Hi everyone and welcome. It's Christine here and I am excited to share with you today a new junk journal that I have made. I made this junk journal from Mrs. Cog's Pocket Boho junk journal course, which is available on her Etsy shop. And this is a design team project for Mrs. Cog, so I will have all the links below. If you're interested in the course, which is a fantastic course, I definitely recommend it. I will post the link to that below. This Pocket Boho journal will also be available for sale in my Etsy shop, so I'll have a link to that below as well. So let's go ahead and look at this journal here. So what I have done is on the cover here, I have this beautiful burgundy red velvet. And then I also have a piece of black velvet that goes around the back. There's a few little floofies. I'll use my lint roller on this before I send it out to the recipient, but the velvet kind of is sort of a magnet for sari silk shedding and that sort of thing. These beautiful gold ornate pieces here on the cover are from Sheila Gingrich. And I will have a link to her Etsy shop as well as her Facebook group below. She has amazing sari silks and beautiful ornate appliques and such things available for sale in packets often. So I will link her contact information for you below so you can check that out. Her page is Boho Daydreams, but I will link that for you below. Along the bottom, I have this beautiful trim here that I just bought at Hobby Lobby, and it has beads and it goes all the way around the spine and the back of the journal. And then, as is taught in the Mrs. Cog's Boho Junk Journal course, there's lots of drippings hanging out of the bottom of the journal, as well as beautiful embellishments hanging off the sides. So we will get into those as we open up and go through the journal. On the side here, I have a beautiful cream-colored sari silk closure here, and it's a big floofy one. Of course, the recipient can always cut down the size of the ribbon if they like. I tend to just leave it long and then let the recipient do what they wish with it. Also remember that sari silk does shed. And I tell you, every time I come on camera to do a junk journal video walkthrough share, I take all the little pieces off that I see, but then I get on camera and more appear. So I'm often on camera having to pick some of them off. That's totally normal, and that will eventually stop. So you won't have to put up with that forever. That is just the nature of sari silk. I get my beautiful sari silk in all different colors from an awesome Etsy seller. It's Victorian Gypsy Girl on Etsy, and I will link to her shop below if anyone is interested. I don't, work for her or Sheila Gingrich or for that matter either. I just really love their products and want to share them with you guys because I think that their products are awesome. So here's the bow untied. As you can see, it is very long. So the recipient can obviously cut that if they want to. So let's go ahead and go inside the journal. The theme of this beautiful kind of royal looking junk journal is Versailles / King Louis XIV. So it's a very sort of historical, regal themed journal. And I used Mrs. Cog's digital images from her King Louis XIV, the Sun King digiset. And I will link that below as well. So if we go ahead and open up, here is the inside of the front cover. This is a soft cover journal, by the way. It has 3 signatures, and it has probably around over 60 pages to journal in. So here's the inside of the front cover, and I neglected to stick this pocket in before I tied it all up here, but I have tea-dyed all of the pages in the journal, which means that I have dunked them in tea, baked them in the oven, and then ironed them with an iron. And I've done the same with all of the index cards that you'll see me pull out of the various tuck spots. I've put some beautiful sari silks with the gold lurex on as tabs on some of these index cards. And I've also done some stamping with just some old retired stamp sets from Stampin' Up! And other stamp companies that I had laying around. So here is the first image here. And this is also a little tuck spot. As you can see, this little index card goes right into the tuck spot there. I have sewed most of the images onto the pages. And almost all of the images are actual tuck spot pockets as well. There's a little lace tuck spot as well, and I made a bunch of flashcards with words that just reminded me of this time in history. So this is a little lace pocket here that I've sewed onto the page and stuck a little flashcard in just to show that it is a pocket. Of course, the recipient can put anything in these pockets that they want. So this is, again, from Mrs. Cog's Digiset, and this is King Louis XIV and his brother, Philippe. Louis is on the left and Philippe is on the right, and they are just dressed immaculately, as you can see. And it was very common in the time for boys to be dressed in gowns, almost like young girls, until they reached a certain age, and then they would be dressed, you know, in more different attire. But that is a beautiful painting of the brothers there with a little doggy in the bottom right corner. Let me make sure that this is zoomed in enough. I think I can probably zoom in just a wee bit more. There we go. Okay. On this title page here, which is the first page of the first signature, I have just adhered very carefully one of these beautiful pieces from Sheila Gingrich from Boho Daydreams. It's absolutely gorgeous. I want to pick it up and bring it up to the camera so you can really see all the beautiful beadwork. And this was just one of so many different pieces that came in a package that I got from her. So it was really lovely to receive that in the mail, and I had used so many beautiful pieces throughout this journal, as you will see as we flip through. So this was just sort of meant to be a decorative page, and then turn it over, and of course we now get into the journal. We have plenty of room for journaling, as you'll see throughout, and also lots of beautiful paintings from the digital set. So here is one of those such printables. This is King Louis XIV in 1673. You can see here I have some of that beautiful lurex red with the gold thread in it. It's sari silk. And then here's just a little index card, and on the back I found a close-up of the painting of the shoe that he is wearing in this painting, and that is the close-up of it. So I just stitched it to the back of this index card and made it a little tuck spot, and so that just slides right into this side pocket here. But the opulence and the decadence of their costuming and their shoes, I mean, look at those shoes. They're just, I'm a little jealous. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. Of course, King Louis XIV, for just a mini history lesson here, became king when he was just a small child. His mother served as regent. I believe he was 4 or 5 when he was actually became king. But his mother sort of served in his stead until he came of age. And while she was serving as regent, King Louis and his brother had some scary things happen as some of the French populace tried to sort of get rid of the monarchy. This was not the French Revolution or anything. That came way later. But there was still some disgruntledness, if you will, in France at the time, and the opulence of the monarchy was a little bit discouraging for some of the people. So and then of course also some of the higher-ups in society, the noble class, also had some problems with how his mom was running things, and maybe they weren't getting as much money as they wanted, or whatever the case may be. So there was just some disgruntled things that happened. So King Louis was driven out of his home in Paris a few times during his childhood by members of the noble class, and that was obviously very frightening. So that is what kind of put in his head that Paris is bad and I need to get the nobles under control. This is obviously a very simplified history, but it's just to give you sort of a short background. It's much more complex than I'm making it sound, but again, this is just modified. So when he became of age and became, his mother was no longer regent and the buck stopped with him, he decided to move the palace to Versailles, which at the time was just the site of his father, the previous king's hunting lodge. And he said, you know what, I'm going to turn Versailles into this magnificent palace, and I'm going to fill it with hundreds of apartments, and I'm going to make all the nobles live here so I can keep an eye on them and so they won't be a threat to my throne, to my family, etc. So that is sort of the background for how Versailles came to exist. And I have been to Paris, but I have not been lucky enough yet to see Versailles. It is, of course, on my bucket list, and I can't wait to see it, but I've read lots of books about it, and it is just a really kind of interesting time in history. Lots of juxtapositions. You have the Versailles and then the poor, you know, working in the village, and just very, very interesting if you're a lover of history like me. So anyway, moving on into the journal, as you can see as we flip throughout, I've got lots of things coming out the bottom, which we call the drippings, and then coming out of the side as well. So it's a very kind of almost over the top looking journal, but it's very easy to put together, as you'll see from Mrs. Cox's course. And it still functions like a journal. It lays flat, as you can see here. You can journal on it. The various embellishments are on the bottom or on the side, so they're not going to impede your ability to actually take a pen and journal in this book. So it's functional, decorative, and also very ornate and beautiful and stuffed. So it's kind of the best of all worlds, I think. This paper here is just some design paper. It's from an old pad by Prima that I believe is called Salvage District. And it's just got some French script there. I found some beautiful fabric. The color tones that I went with are really kind of gold and black and red with some blues mixed in, because some of the beautiful paintings, they're in this sort of regal royal blue colors. So I added some blue for some highlights as well. Here is another tab, and I've sewed a button on. I found this huge pack of wood buttons at Hobby Lobby, and they happen to have a sun charm on, or a sun design on some of the buttons, which worked perfectly for this journal because King Louis referred to himself and was referred to as the Sun King. He believed in the divine right of kings, which meant that kings were basically placed on earth by God to rule. And so he really felt that he had this godly right, and all of his decisions came from God. So like the sun is sort of the center of the universe, in that time they believed that. He felt that he was the center of French rule and hopefully the world, as he tried to expand through wars and things like that to gain more property. So and more territory rather. So the Sun King became his nickname. He was also known as Apollo, which is the Greek sun god, and he was also known as Louis the Great. So here's just a little, another little lace tab, and I just put a little kind of golden bauble charm here. Then I have a beautiful applique that I've dunked in tea and just carefully adhered to the side of the page here, just for some ornate beauty. I just thought that that was really pretty, so that goes there on the side of the page. And then as we keep going here, on this side, this is Philippe, his younger brother's first wife, Henrietta. There were lots of rumors, although I haven't been able to find a definitive answer. But historians kind of argue about whether or not King Louis had an affair with her. But many historians, while they might not go so far as to say that there was an affair, most agree that he was very much in love with his brother's first wife. But this is a portrait of Henrietta, which was, again, the first wife holding a portrait of Philippe. So I thought that was really pretty. And then over here we have a large portrait of Philippe. Inside I have a tea-dyed index card. And then most of the paintings have the little caption on them, but when they're large like this, I didn't want to cover up the painting by putting, or the image by putting the caption on there. So I just stuck the caption on the index card instead, if that makes sense. So that just slides right back in this side pocket here. And again, the tea-dyed index cards, there's some stamping on some of them just for fun. This is a painting where King Louis meets his soon-to-be bride, who was, I believe the Queen of, was it Spain? Let's see what the little caption tells us. So here is the front with, I just stamped an ornate chandelier, and then on the back, yes, the Spanish Infanta Maria Therese, which she became the future Queen of France, of course, because she and Louis married. And this is their first meeting depicted in this painting here. So very kind of cool. Then we have a little tiny lace pocket here, and it's very narrow. It's not very deep, but you could stick little notes, or I just put a little flashcard in there. And then here we are, lots more space to journal. Here's the center of the first signature, and then at the bottom I have left the ties long, and we have beads here along the bottom of the the first signature, and they hang out the bottom of the book. So again, they don't interfere with the actual book itself or your ability to journal in it. So here on this side is the Queen, so King Louis's wife, Queen Marie-Therese, and their son, who is a Dauphin, which is what they call the next to the throne in waiting. So obviously Louis is still king, but that's going to be the next on the throne. Of course, it ultimately won't be, because King Louis outlived almost everyone, and his grandson ended up taking over, who became Louis the 15th. But this was at the time going to be the next king of France, but died before he was given the chance. This is Louis when he was a child. And so here we have just another little tuck spot that I created with, again, tea-dyed index cards, some stamping, plenty of room for journaling on the card as well. And then all of these just slide right back into these pockets. Got some sari silk here again to make a little tab. This is the Lurex sari silk with the gold threading in it. More room to journal. I loved this fabric. I actually found this at, I want to say Walmart, in a little square, and it's the fleur-de-lis. Here's a little paper clip with some beadwork on it, just a little flashcard paper clipped in there. And as you can see, as I'm flipping through, lots of little drippings along the bottom. Here's some cute little balls that hang out, and as you can see, there's lots of lace as we flip back. I'm just not kind of pointing everything out because you guys can see it as I'm flipping through. Okay, so here's just some design paper that's been tea-dyed. Here is one of Louis's mistresses. He had 5 children with her. This is Louise. And she's one of the ones wearing some of that gorgeous royal blue color that I decided to pop on into some places throughout the journal. She was he had several mistresses and fathered almost 20 children, I believe. It was, sort of the practice back then. Kings in all different countries did that. And he did legitimize almost all of his children. Now, they didn't have a chance to get to get onto the throne if they were not legitimate children, but by legitimizing them, they did have certain rights. They could come to court. They were taken care of financially if Louis were to die and that sort of thing. So this was one of his earlier mistresses that, again, he had 5 children with. She eventually left Versailles and went on to a nunnery, where she became a practicing nun for the rest of her life. But I just stuck a couple little tea-dyed note cards, whoops, little thread there, in this pocket here, just again for more journaling space, since the image does cover this particular page. I like to make the images pockets so I don't take away too much from journaling. Here's more design paper with from that Prima pack with French script on it. And then here is the last page of the first signature. I'm sorry, second to last page. I think, yeah, second to last page, I'm sorry. And this beautiful piece here is one of those that came in a package from Sheila Gingrich, and it works perfectly for this journal. In Versailles, one of the things that was created during Louis's reign is this magnificent hallway called the Hall of Mirrors. And it's one of the main features. If you ever pick up a book or see a documentary or something on Versailles, that's one of the main images that you see. And so this was so perfect. It's gold and it has a little mirror on it. You can sort of see my finger reflected in it. So I just thought this has to go in this journal. I loved it. So I just sewed some little flashcards here onto the page, and then just stuck some little tea-dyed note cards. Tea-dyed tags rather, into some of these pockets. Some of the tags are stamped on and some have some washi tape decorations. Here is a painting of Louis outside of Versailles. This is obviously after he'd been there a while and a lot of construction had happened. And I made a little tuck spot out of this one and just stuck a little tea-dyed index card in there. On this tab, we have some beautiful safety pin and then some beautiful beadwork, as you can see. And one of these beads is a beautiful sun, again, going back to his nickname of the Sun King. So you'll see the sun featuring quite a bit throughout this journal. And there's the end of the first signature. So here we are with the beginning of the second signature. This is a painting of Versailles and how it looked in 1668. So as you can see, it's quite impressive. The beautiful gardens and hedgerows and fountains there. And I used a lot of those words in some of the flashcards that I created for this journal because that's really a huge important part of his reign, was making Versailles, you know, what it became. Not just a beautiful building, of course, but an emblem as well of French rule and how he viewed himself and how he viewed France and France's position in the world. It's really quite an interesting time in history. And as a history major, to me, I just eat this stuff up. But anyway, so here's a fun little doily that I have here along the top that I've just sort of adhered down, tied a button to it. Lots of more room for journaling. Here at the bottom, I do have a couple different charms on this one. I have a fleur-de-lis and I have a little sword. I'm not sure if those are showing up well or not in the camera, hopefully. Here's a little crown charm on this one, on this little lace tab here. Again, as you can see, lots of room for journaling here. Now we have a little tuck spot here. Oh, whoops, I forgot to share this. This down here is just a little cross charm. Louis was very religious, especially later in his life. In the beginning of his life, he still found religion very important, but he was having lots of mistresses and things like that, which he didn't seem to really faze him in terms of, you know, that didn't seem to affect his faith. But as he got older and his first wife died, he ended up marrying again. We'll get to her portrait in a little bit, but she was very religious and did not agree with the mistress, you know, angle of things, and would not become his mistress, wanted to either, you know, marry him or kind of call off any type of relationship. And so she ended up, it's widely speculated anyway by historians, that she sort of helped him get even more fervent in his religious beliefs. And so he was very staunchly Catholic and actually undid some religious tolerance things for Protestants that his father had put in place before, which was a bit controversial at the time, that he was just a very staunch Catholic, and because he believed that he was the divine ruler, he felt all of his subjects should follow in his wake. So he sort of made Catholicism the main religion of his empire at the time. So anyway, this was one of his mistresses before he married again, but while he was still married to the queen. And her, she was kind of known as Francois Athene, and she was sort of known as the real Queen of Versailles. There is lots of lore about her. It's all quite interesting. Lots of rumor, lots of innuendo. We know that there was poisonings going on in Versailles. Whether she was involved in any of them or not is debated by historians. If you've seen the show Versailles on Netflix, part of it actually is pretty historically accurate. Not all of it, but parts of it are. But they definitely go with that theme regarding her in terms of her being heavily involved in witchcraft and poisons and trying to put spells of love potions and things on the king. There is a basis for that belief that shows up in that show, but historians are sort of divided on how, you know, far she actually went. They all seem to sort of believe that she probably did go to someone in the local village to try to get a love potion, but whether she was more involved in poisoning than that, and that wasn't really poisoning, but whether she took it a step further or not is debated. Anyway, here we go now with Philippe. Again, this is just another portrait of the younger brother. There were only the two brothers, King Louis XIV and then Philippe I, who was the Duke of Orleans. This is his second wife. Henrietta, his first wife that I showed you a portrait of earlier, died quite young. There were rumors that she was poisoned. Historians don't think now that she was, but at the time it was thought that she was because she did die so young. This is Elizabeth Charlotte, who became Philip's second wife. And let me tell you, she's a pretty awesome lady. I've been reading her letters. She sent like over 1,000 letters throughout her time in Versailles. And it's actually a free Amazon book if you have a Kindle. But she is so funny. Her writing is so relatable, even though this was written in the 1600s. I mean, it's really cool. So I definitely recommend picking that up if you have a Kindle. It's free. So this is the lady that became Louis's second wife. And she and Philippe's second wife did not get along, and that is well documented in Elizabeth Charlotte's letters. But anyway, she did become Louis's second wife, and like I said, was the one that a lot of historians credit to making Louis sort of stop with the mistresses, maybe not altogether, but generally stop with the mistresses and become way more devout in his Catholicism. She never became queen. She was not of the sufficient, I guess, royal bloodline or whatever you would call it, and she did not technically become queen, but they did get married in a secret ceremony. So here's just some design paper over here that I tea dyed. I have some sari silk going through it, and I did add some little beads here at the bottom. And now we'll just keep going because I feel like I have been talking way too much. Here's the center of the second signature, and it does have Versailles spelled out here. And this is that French, or that Salvage District paper pad from Prima that is retired now, but to have Versailles right there was too good to be true. So obviously that became a centerpiece of one of the signatures. I put this gorgeous trim, this is from that packet from Sheila Gingrich, on the side. And then we'll just keep going here. Here's just some beautiful ornate lurex sari silk, the gold, beautiful gold threading in it. Divine Rule, that's what I've been talking about a little bit, how Louis saw himself. Little pocket there with some tea-dyed tags. Here's a beautiful, another piece from Sheila Gingrich that I've just carefully adhered on. And it is a little tuck spot as well. Some lace along the side there. This piece is also from Sheila. How beautiful is this? I mean, almost everything that you see in this book is from Sheila, and it just works perfectly. So I made a little tuck spot here with some tags. Here's a little tuck spot. This is that that same Madame de Montespan. She is the same mistress that we saw a little bit earlier when I was talking about the poisons and things. She was probably his most famous, not probably, she was his most famous mistress, and basically kind of ran Versailles for a while in terms of just how powerful she became before Louis sent her away for whatever reason. Either you believe the poisonings or you believe it was some other reason. Again, historians are a little bit mixed on that. Here is just a little paper clip that I've added some fun beads to, and I did want to show you. Let me bring this up to the camera real quick. This little bead here has a sun on one side, and then the moon is on the other, but I really wanted it, you know, for the sun, because again, he was the Sun King. So that goes there. And again, I just clipped a little flash card. The recipient can clip anything they want in these paper clips, or take them out and use them on a different project, whatever you like. So as you can see, lots of room to journal. I have a pretty applique here along the bottom of the paper. Here's another beautiful portrait of King Louis XIV. And here you've got beautiful red and blues. Here's a little tuck spot over here, and I just stuck just some little flashcards in a journaling spot. In here is a little journaling card as well, tea-dyed. Just goes right in here. And then along the bottom here, I have carefully adhered this beautiful piece, which again is from Sheila Gingrich, and it's red and ornate and beaded, and it's oh so gorgeous that I think I should pick it up and show it to you really quick. Look at that. It's a beautiful red velvet with all of that beading trim work done on it. It's just gorgeous. So this is the beginning now of the third and final signature. Here we have this beautiful thing, listen to me. That's very descriptive, Christine. No, this ornate, very pretty applique that I've just tea dyed and then attached to the side. Some more design paper that I've tea dyed. Some lace here at the bottom. That's part of the drippings that I have just made a tiny little tuck spot. And then I have attached a little pretty red bead there to the bottom lace. Here we have another little paper clip with some beadwork that I have attached to the paper clip. A nice pretty tab here with a button sewed on. Along the bottom here, I do have some of this pretty beadwork. Again, this is another of those pretty, like what's on the front cover, this pretty tapestry like trim that also has some beadwork on it, and this is black and gold, and it does have a little bit of beadwork there. And I thought I went really pretty with this design paper that I tea dyed. So Here's a castle charm also, which has to go on any royal journal, I believe. So that's there. Then lots more room for journaling. Here we have Louis' court in Versailles in 1685 painting, and I just stuck a little journaling card in there. And then here's another little paper clip with some beadwork at the top. Some more design paper here from that same pack. I also left the third signature's little thread from sewing it into the book long, and added some pretty beadwork to it, as you can see there. Alrighty. Here is another beautiful applique that I have attached to the side after tea dyeing. I get these and they come in really large pieces, and I just wanted to give this little tip. This won't even fit all in my camera view. They come in this large piece, and I get them from Hobby Lobby. They're $6.99. They're in the sewing department near where the trims and things are. I dunk them in tea, and then I cut them up and use them on various pages to have pretty things coming out of the sides of the book. So it's a very inexpensive way to get. You can also use a coupon on it, so you can get it, you know, much cheaper than the $7. And you know, then you can go ahead and use it in different books even. One piece could last you for several books depending on how many you put in. Here's another portrait of Louis' second wife, who again did not become queen, but she was his wife. Here's a little tuck spot. This is the main mistress, I would say, and she had 7 of Louis' children. So here's a little tuck spot with this pretty applique here. More room to journal. Here is Louis and his brother. Again, as you can see, Louis is a little bit older, so he's now dressed, you know, in breeches and things, and his brother's dressed in a gown still. He's the younger brother, which was common for the time. Here on this piece of lace dripping down, I have added a little coilless safety pin with some pretty beadwork there. As you can see, some blue and gold beadwork there. And then we're almost to the end of it, guys. Thank you for hanging in. Here is the last page where I've just sewn some flashcards in and Lurex sari silk, and added some tea-dyed tags in there. And then on the inside back cover, I have this beautiful doily that I got from Mrs. Cog, so thank you so much, Liz, for that. And I have sewed it to the bottom here of this inside back cover page, and it's the longest that sticks out of the bottom. I have attached this gorgeous sun charm that I got from Hobby Lobby to the bottom. This is a tuck spot here for a little journaling card. And then the doily itself has a little place to tuck, so I just tucked a little flash card in there. And then where it says the Sun King, this also is sewn onto the doily and has a little tuck spot, so I just stuck 2 tea-dyed tags in there, and then I did sew 2 buttons onto the doily itself. So that is it, guys. That is the journal. As you can see, it's quite thick, full of gorgeous yummies, but it also functions as a journal. Whenever I send out journals, I also send just some clothespins, which can help keep the book opened if you're doing some journaling. So you could just clothespin this, help you keep your the pages open. But this is a much smaller book than ones you've seen me have before, and really I kind of practiced on each page pretending I was writing, and there were no problems in this book at all actually having this function as a journal, along with just a really pretty book to look at. So here it is one final time. This was so fun to look at. It makes me want to go rewatch Versailles on Amazon. I'm sorry, on Netflix. But this was just so much fun. I'm actually kind of sad to part with this one. I am going to be doing some more King Louis journals in the larger sizes where I will add quotes and things. But this one is for sale now. Those will come a little later down the pike. I have so many plans for different journals that I have to kind of get moving with something else, but I'll come back to this. And I'm also going to do some royal Tudor themed journals as well, because how can you not? Mrs. Cog has some great Tudor images in her shop as well. So anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging in there with me. I hope that you enjoyed this journal. All your links are below. I hope I didn't bore you too much with the history lesson. I hope you had fun watching this. Thank you so much for stopping by as always, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.